Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from Canadian sludge doom outfit Olde. The band's new album Pilgrimage will be released on March 19th via Seeing Red Records in North America and Sludgelord Records in Europe. So this is the third full-length album from Olde, which the band wrapped up work on in early 2020. The album was recorded, mixed and mastered by Olde, with production and mastering done by guitarist Greg Dawson at BWC Studios. So, Olde, I kind of want to start with the production actually. Right off the bat, I really liked how this album sounds. It ticked a lot of boxes for me sonically. The guitars and bass are thick and kind of weighty sound. The drums, I've got a real punch to them. It kind of really punches through the mix. But I like the tone that they've gone for. It's a very kind of natural heaviness to it, very organic sounding, which I think suits the band.
If you had a preset button on a mixing desk for kind of mastodon-y, sludgy sound, and you pressed it, this is what it would sound like. It 100% sounds like how this band should sound. Is like, I don't mean that in a kind of condescending, generic-y sort of way. It's very, very, very tempting to try and reinvent the wheel, and sometimes I wish bands would not reinvent the wheel and just stick to, this is how we should sound, and this is what it should sound like, and that is 100% what they've done here, and I think it works wonders. So. It
really does. It really does. And it's not underproduced either. I think you sometimes get, especially from sludge bands, they tend to go for a really kind of grimy sound at times, but you don't get that at all in this. And you can hear it from the opener, Pilgrimage, which has got that kind of a great balance of like heaviness and melody from the guitars, and the kick and the snare drum have got this real kind of like chest thumping kind of power to them. Really dug that straight away. I was like, yes, I am in. Loving the production so far. The first track's kind of it's a bit of a like an intro, but it's not an intro. If that
it's
makes
an oddity.
Sense.
It's an oddity because the vocals don't come into quite far into it as well, which kind of made me think we did that band. What was it, Sarin? Recently.
Oh yeah,
and Sarin had like. I thought this was another Sarin because there were like huge sections where there was just fuck all vocals, and once again there's a time and a place for it, but we mentioned it doesn't always work. And I was concerned at that, but you are right. It is essentially one giant intro as a song,
is.
And it doesn't sound like the rest.
Minutes.
Yeah, it does not sound like it's the odd one out from the, but not in a bad way. I think I think it's smart as well, making it the title track, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
because there is that thing where you get that out of the way, and then the rest of the album flows in a different way. It's still inherently the band, still inherently the genre, but it's just not the same formula as that. So
yeah, if it kind of felt like they were easing you in, with these, it's got this kind of big, long, kind of droning chords and kind of lead work over the top of it. But then, as you said, even when the vocals kick in that track, it still feels like they're building towards something.
Yeah,
and then track 2 kicks in, and this is kind of where it feels like it starts to expand, and they become a bit more kind of riffy, and it feels like the band have arrived and they're ready to start kind of laying down the kind of different elements to make up the old sound.
There is so many different elements that make up the old sound. Yeah. That's kind of one of the reasons I fucking really dug this release. Put my cards down. There are swaths in here where there's like 70s rock hooks.
Yeah,
they just come in and they just start doing stuff, and I'm like. And then we need to talk about the elephant in the room that's shaped like a saxophone. I've never smiled. I give the listeners a peek into my life. When I bought my house a year and a half ago, at the time I thought I was buying a really cool house that had this really long driveway, which on paper sounds great until it fucking snows. So I've had to scrape this bastard, and it's taken an hour each time. 5 times in the last 2 days, like to clear the fucking snow from it. And as a result, what I've realised is I can listen to a fairly long-length album during the process. So
right.
Old has got me through 3 scrapings of the drive, and every single time the saxophone solo kicks in, I stop scraping and I pretend that the shovel that I have is a saxophone, and my neighbours do think I'm a bit mad. And it comes. Talk about coming out of left field from the instrumentation.
Yeah.
It just hits you, and I'm sure I might be wrong, but is there not like there's a keyboard or something that plays as well on that same track? I might be completely wrong. It may be a guitar effect, but there was something kind of keyboardy comes in, and I'm like, yeah. Sorry, I don't want to kill your vibe, but I just felt that once we've established there is bitchin' saxophone in a genre which I don't think anyone's used a saxophone on before, no. We can move on with the rest of the review. Well played, Old. Well played.
Yeah. I'll circle back to that saxophone later on, but that second track that kicks in, I was thinking to myself that it's got a really cool kind of verse riff to it. One of those riffs that you just can't help but kind of headbang to. And the vocalist, Doug McLarty, his name is. I was listening, I was thinking, he sounds like almost like a sludgier Neil Fallon from Clutch thing going on. I was like, this sounds a wee bit like that. And then there's a track, I think it's maybe the track after, Medico della Peste. I was like, this is very Clutch. It's almost like a sludgier Clutch. I was like, this is fucking.
He's like a slightly less abrasive Dry Kill Logic as well. It's incredible. There's a tone to what he does, and he hits notes, but there is a gravel to his voice which is perfectly suited. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that, I would be surprised if Clutch is an influence. Clutch have, dabbled in sludgier tones, and Neil Fallon himself, if you listen to Blood and Thunder, Neil Fallon guests on that track, and when you hear it, you would not know Neil Fallon was doing those vocals. You suddenly realise, see if Clutch decided to do a sludge album, it'd be one of the best sludge albums ever.
Totally would.
Totally works.
Yeah, and I actually found that even throughout the album, that kind of southern kind of flavour does kind of raise its head every now and again on some of the riffs. There was little moments I was like, oh, that's a wee bit kind of Goatsnake-ish, or even like a even slightly slower version of Scissor Fight at times as well. I was getting a little bit of that coming through. But then they've also got this kind of melodic side as well, which is really cool. In Defiance being a kind of good example of that. The kind of main riffs and rhythms felt very almost leaned into kind of post-metal in style, but I loved that they had this kind of like clean picked guitar melody sitting underneath it. And there was a little bit of that in the first track on the album, the kind of intro type track. But when they bring that in, that kind of clean melody, it elevates the track so much. I feel it just made it so much kind of more grand, and almost kind of added this kind of atmosphere to it as well. Almost like at times I felt like it added this. It sounds weird, but there was almost like a kind of post-rock kind of vibe with the style of the kind of picking and stuff, which was strange, but it really worked. And then obviously you get to the Dead Hand, and you're like, oh, this is cool, totally fucking into this. And then about 4 minutes in, you're like, what the fuck was that? Was that a fucking saxophone I just heard there? What the fuck's going on here? Totally not expected, but completely works. And I think, and it doesn't last like for a huge amount of time, like you're talking like 15-20 seconds, something like that, but they kind of, I like the way they really they blend it with this kind of solo. I'm not sure if it's a guitar or a keyboard, but they
I have no idea. The sound was brilliant though, and it worked fucking really, really well. It's not one of those things where it's a gimmick saxophone, but it worked really, really well. It was one of those moments where I heard it and I was like, that's really clever. It's a clever little thing. I mean, it's one of those. It's very easy to call it a kind of gimmicky thing like that. Saxophone has been slowly creeping back in to some of the genres you would not expect it to recently, and it comes in, it does its bit, and then it morphs in a way which was really, it knocks you back, but at the same time you're like, no, this is like, to get that to work through there is smart songwriting and also good production, because it works right through. So the fact the band's behind that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it felt, I liked the way they blended it because it didn't feel just kind of thrown in for the sake of it. You know, it kind of had a purpose, which I liked. And I thought that track itself had a bit of it was a bit kind of an Electric Wizard type swagger to it, just the kind of tempo and the rhythm of it, which is, it's never a bad thing. There was for me, there was a slight dip towards the end. A couple of tracks, Depth Charge and Under Threatening Skies. Not bad tracks at all. They had a couple of cool riffs.
Depth Charge? What are you talking?
Oh, did you? I just thought they were
one of the best ones.
It was a wee bit uneventful for me. As a couple of cool riffs.
It was just like heavy as fuck, but just kept on punching in the face with more heavy. The same heavy, but more of it, and I loved it.
I don't know. I just felt like the other tracks had something in them that really stood out and really kind of caught my ear. Where those two just kind of felt like they'd just kind of passed by a little bit. It was nothing I hadn't heard before from the genre. But then I felt like they end the album perfectly on a real kind of high note with Wastelands. It's a really good mix. Really kind of dense sounding. It's got that kind of the thick kind of sludge sound to it as well. But it's mixed with a lot of really, really interesting kind of melodic chords and really nice lead work. And I think it's that melodic side of the band that I enjoyed the most on the album. I thought the melodies and the layers of different contrasts really stood out for me on Pilgrimage. I think without that, it would have been a completely different album. They'd have probably got lost into the kind of sea of like sludge bands out there. But I think they blend just enough of that atmosphere and melody into the album to kind of make it stand out from the pack. I liked a lot of this album. I really did. Kyle's been very quiet about this so far.
Except to tell you were wrong.
Obviously,
fucking wrong.
That's
the only song I like. No, I'm kidding. I mean, you started off with production, and I'm glad you did, because I think this album is one of the most perfectly produced albums I have ever heard in my life.
Ooh.
It fits. The production of this album fits it perfectly for what it is. There's nothing unheard, but there's nothing overproduced, and I couldn't get over it. I was like, I want to work with whoever produced this. And I know it's the guitarist in the band. I'm like, it's absolutely. I mean, maybe it helps that they're in the band and they know exactly what they're going for and exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's to a band's detriment, where they just get too deep into it and you're like, I want it to sound this way, and other people are like, but it sounds shit. But this does not. The guitar tones are perfect. The bass tone is amazing. The drums sound just supernatural, really well played. There's no like plastic sounds and samples and shit over the top of it. Everything sounds as honest as the band plays. And I really, 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 really think it's one of the best produced albums I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
It is. It's just the choices they made just suit it so well, because that's what a production has to do. It's not like everything has to sound super clean all the time. Oh my god, it's like, no, a production has to suit the song, right?
Yeah.
Just like any other part of a song or any other part of an album or a band or anything, the image has to suit, and the tones of the guitars have to suit, and the production has to suit it too. And this does, down to the ground. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm glad you led with that. And I'm glad Duncan brought up the big saxophone-shaped elephant in the room, because you can have to.
You have to. I know. There's been a few bands recently that have used a saxophone in their songs. Like, I think the first one I heard was Aliases way back in 2015.
Yeah.
And that blew me away. I was like, that's a great choice. You did not see that coming at all in a band as techie and crazy as them. And then I heard it, I think there's been a couple of those, but I don't remember the names, but Ghost did it as well.
Ghost did it really, really, really well.
They did it
really well.
Yeah, they did it so well. And they lean into it so much in their stage shows and everything as well. They loved it. And then it came up in this, and I'm just thinking, the first time I literally sat up in my chair and I went, what? But it wasn't like a what the fuck, it was like, what, that's awesome. Because they took the saxophone, which I had previously maybe thought had been sort of overdone. Now it's done. Saxophones and metal, yeah, okay, we've seen it. But they did it so well that I'm like, I completely turned my 180 on that. Absolutely just like, no, you can still do saxophones and metal. It works. Just do it right. And they did it right. And they blended it with a guitar solo. And I was just like, which bit's guitar and which bit's saxophone? I don't know. And but no, it's fantastic. Really, 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 yeah. I don't know what I can say that you guys already haven't, but I loved this album. And it's that song you were mentioning, Depth Charge. I don't know why I loved it so much. It's just like, the thing is, because when you listen to like sludgy, you know, doomy stuff like this, it's like you kind of want that give and take of the riff just to sort of, you know, just bob along like that, and it really did for me. It just sort of it didn't change up too much, and it was just like, yeah, this is the sound you want. I could fall asleep to this stone out of my face. So I mean, I loved it. I really did, and the last track on it is fantastic. Wastelands, just great ending to an album. So.
Yeah,
it's a thumbs up from me.
Thumbs up from Kyle. Yeah, yeah, very very good album indeed. Production's really versatile as well, actually, when I think about it. Like it really works when they're leaning more into their kind of heavier sludge sections, but then when they do decide to kind of mix it up and add in a bit of melody, like it still sounds perfect. The balance is spot on in terms of the production, and some great riffs as well. I can imagine this would go down really well in a live environment. You know, when you just get the chance to kind of crank it and just kind of feed off each other as a band. I can imagine that'd be really cool to see. Really interested to see these guys live, actually. So, Old Pilgrimage, what are we thinking rating wise for this one? Duncan, what are you thinking?
It's a 4.5 from me. I think there's very little in here not to enjoy. I think I think they've struck a really interesting balance. It sounds exactly like it should. The music is interesting enough and varied enough. Like I say, they are not scared of doing a big sludgy section and then starting to experiment, play around with a little bit of kind of doomy stuff, but then also bring in like really commercial kind of 70s rock hooks, as if it should always just be part of the music, which is a thing with me. If you're gonna do it, it has to add value to the song, otherwise why bother? And they showed that throughout the whole album, whether it's throwing those hooks in, whether it's, you know, bringing a bit of melody in on the guitar work, whether it's, you know, knowing when to bring in the vocals and not, and when to use a saxophone, which is an art in itself. Yeah, 4.5. I think this has got so much re-listen value to it as well. I mean, I will be coming back to this all year for sure. So 4.5.
Nice. Kyle, what about you?
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's at least a 4, and it's at least a 4.5, but I'm like, is this going to be the first 5 of the year from me? I don't know.
I thought you've given a 5 already.
Have I?
Is it?
Nah, not this year.
You two gave Sonic Flower a 5, did you know?
I gave it a 5.
I probably gave it a 5
So
too.
Kyle.
Alright, is this going to be the second 5 of 5 of the year? Sorry, Sonic Flower. I love you guys.
I don't know. Is this going to be the second podcast this year that I give out a 5? Next month you'll be doing the same thing. Next month you bought that. This is the first 5 I've given out this year.
Every 5 this year is going to be the first one. You know what? I think I'm going to do it. I think it's going to be a 5 out of 5 for me.
Oh,
it's fantastic, this album.
Kyle.
It's going to be paid for, and I'm going to go buy it. It's going to be in my playlist to listen to.
I thought you meant the band were paying you for it.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 5. It's going to be paid for. You hear that? Send the check to.
Failing a check, send me for stuff. Oh. No, I love this. It's great. It ticked all of my boxes, and the production was perfect. I can't say that about many albums, but this was perfect. So.
Well, you don't. We know that for a fact. You don't say that about any album.
It's impossible to do.
That is high praise coming from Kyle, by the way.
Yeah.
A perfect production, that never happens.
Never.
Once in a blue moon, so let's hope this blue moon lasts a while.
Nice, a 5 for Kyle, awesome. I'd probably go with a 4 for me, I think. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As I said, I had 6 out of the 8 tracks I really dug. There was 2 that were just okay for me. Great production. So by that logic, I'm going to go for a 4 out of 5. Check these guys out. You've got them on Facebook at facebook.com/Old Doom. That's old with an E, O-L-D-E.
Yeah, as in ye olde.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The album drops on March 19th via Seeing Red Records and Sludgelord Records, so check that one out when it drops.
Grotesque.